welcome to the program. I'm your boyfriend, George Chambalopoulos. What a program tonight. Another one of our extended interviews, the full half hour with one guest. Tonight we have one of the most compelling and controversial figures in America. This is a guy that has, at times, challenged the way people look at freedom of speech, freedom of expression, viewing what's acceptable and what's not. He's an icon. However, I should tell you, he's also the guy that has been viewed as obscene, disgusting, unnecessary, all those things. Like people, a very, very polarizing fella. He's not exactly a grand old gentleman of arts and letters, but certainly famous for some of the letters written to his magazine. He took what Playboy started and hooked up a drag racing engine to it, got rid of the brake, put the pedal to the metal, and instead of gasoline in the engine, filled it with meth. This man is to Hugh Hefner what Ozzy Osbourne is to Josh Groban. The founder of Hustler magazine, Larry Flynt, is here tonight. You know, he's one of those people that you mention his name, you get a reaction. My mom loves to watch this show. She's probably not going to want to watch it. Mom, you're going to tune her up. But listen, I would say to you and to everybody out there who just goes, I don't want to hear that. Hear what Larry has to say. He says some really interesting things, some really horrific things as well, but he's a man who really believes in freedom of expression. So stick around and see what you think about Larry when it's done. Larry Flynt, on his way in. Here's his bio. You know, Larry Flynt's been called a lot of things in his life. Criminal, pervert, genius, champion of civil rights, and at one point or another, all those things probably true. Now, back in the 60s, after a stint in the Navy, Larry was in need of a job, and he ended up in the bar business. He bought a bar and turned that business into several strip clubs, which he named Hustler Clubs. Now, the way Larry promoted his business was with an old-school black and white newsletter. In 1974, Larry turned that newsletter into a magazine. Hustler was way more raw, and to many, was simply way more crude. And to others, it was absolutely obscene. And you know what? Larry actually came under huge fire for that. In '76, he was arrested and tried on charges of obscenity, pandering, and organized crime. He was convicted, but the ruling was overturned on a technicality, and Larry spun that case into great publicity. He actually ran for president and used that as a platform to really big up the debate about free speech.
They feel very much threatened by Hustler magazine and by me because it's one thing they can't control.
In 1978, though, Larry's notoriety nearly got him killed. He was shot outside a Georgia courthouse and left paralyzed from the waist down. Over the past 35 years, he has repeatedly defended his actions in the court of public opinion and in the actual courts, also doing it while building a business empire. In '96, his life was turned into a movie, The People versus Larry Flynt, and Larry himself made a cameo.
I will not allow them into evidence that are irrelevant to this case.
Now he's got a new book. It's called One Nation Under Sex. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Larry Flynt. Nice to see you. How are you? Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Things are well?
Things are fine.
Excellent. How the private lives of presidents, first ladies, and their lovers changed the course of American history. Why did you decide it was time to tell the story of who the president slept with?
I wanted to see if the sex scandals that exist today in our political culture, if they existed in the days of the Founding Fathers. So, sure enough, we found that it was true, and they were just as vicious and vile. They used them, what information they had, in campaigning against one another, whether it's Jefferson or Alexander Hamilton, and it was just amazing. But after Kennedy, the press changed completely, and they no longer protected the president, whether it be George Bush Sr. or Bill Clinton or whoever it might be. And the press is just looking to jump on any scandal that they can, and they're treating it what I think is a good way. Not just exposing people's sex lives, but exposing the hypocrisy, because the biggest threat that democracy has is hypocrisy. So that's what the press is going after, and that's what we're trying to expose as well.
Do you think the press, I hear what you're saying about the press going after hypocrisy, but that would sort of presuppose that the press exists unbiased as well, and a lot of times they're not going after hypocrisy, they're just going after them because people love you know, like you did with your sell magazines, sell papers.
Well, that's true, but you know, you pay a price to live in a free society, and that price is toleration. You have to tolerate things that you don't necessarily like so you can be free, like Fox News or Hustler Magazine or whatever.
Could you ever have imagined that there would be a conversation where you and Fox News served the same purpose, right?
Yeah, but in different ways.
Yeah, very different ways.
Very different ways, yeah. So,
So yeah, so the press, like, a lot of times it just becomes agenda as opposed to
pardon?
agenda as opposed to pointing out hypocrisy.
The press is very much agenda-driven, you know, but it's come down on ideological lines now where, you know, where the liberals are coming from, you know, where the right is coming from. So somehow, you know, a lot of coverage gets lost in the middle. But we can't set aside our First Amendment and free speech because we're concerned about a couple of idiots like somebody that wanted to burn the Koran or protest a funeral, or there's a lot of kooky guys out there. And the first thing people want to react is they want to ban, you know, certain freedoms.
Right.
In order to restrict these people. Well,
do you think anybody's entitled to privacy? Should presidents, or in this case prime ministers, be entitled to privacy?
no, I think that you become a public figure because of the action you take, whether it's a job you seek or a particular act that you committed. And you actually give up your privacy, and I'm really tired of these celebrities whining that they're making $20 million a year, and they're whining that they have no privacy. Well, they weren't crying about privacy, you know, when they were broke trying to get a role.
But when did it? So, like an actor, it's different from a president. I actually do think a politician has a different burden of proof because they get elected by the people. But like an actor, a celebrity's job is to be great at a movie. And I agree with you that the terrain is, this comes with the territory. But when did that get to be okay? Like, why is it that okay?
Well, I think it really started in the 60s with the paparazzi. That was actually named after an individual who started selling celebrity photos of Elizabeth Taylor and people of that ilk when they were on stage shooting Cleopatra. So, and everything just blossomed out of there. But the problem is, if you start trying to turn the clock back because you don't like something, believe me, that's a slippery slope. And, you know, Benjamin Franklin said it best when he said, those who would give up their individual freedoms for security deserve neither. And, you know, people bought into this Patriot Act in the United States where the government now has the right to tape record and listen to every human being in our country. And I just don't think that's right. I don't think that was visioned by the Founding Fathers, and they convinced the people that this was for their safety and this was in their best interest.
Is that why you gave so much money to the WikiLeaks people?
Yes, and I continue to give. If he would have been around, you know, maybe the Pentagon Papers wouldn't have been necessary, or Watergate even, you know.
How have you felt when it's been turned on you? I mean, over the course of your life, in your career, lots of your private information has been put out there. Some true, some not so true, but all of it salacious for sure. How have you felt when the tables have been turned on you?
It happens, and so many just plain false things about me are created largely by the religious right, you know, and
of which you were a member for what, a brief time? When you were religious for one? How long did you become a Christian?
But I got over that.
No, you're right that a lot of the stuff about you has come from the enemies, but even a couple rumors came out from your own daughters. They've since recounted, but they came out and said stuff that, you know, there was...
Well, they apologized for the lies they told, but I was telling someone the other day that I have 4 daughters by previous marriages, okay? I don't have any problems with them that I can't solve very easily. If I would sit down and write them a check every week. But I'm not open to that kind of blackmail, you know? It just doesn't work.
On a human, personal level, I suppose everybody who has a family wishes that they didn't have that reality. So when you have to deal with that, do you have, I mean, do you lament the situation with your family, and do you wish it was better?
Well, I think if I've been a failure at anything, it's being a father, that's for sure, you know. But then when I think about the women I was married with, I don't know if anyone could have endured those relationships.
Well, the common factor has been you in all of them, right? You have played half the role in every single one.
Yeah. But you live and learn.
I mean, the pornography business has changed, obviously, but the way you approach it has changed, too. Have you had not a change of heart, that's the wrong phrase, but have you had a shift in your mind about what you want to see exist under the brand of Hustler?
Well, we're already there. I sensed in the early 90s that the internet was going to put the magazine publishing business out of business. And so we immediately went into video, to apparel, we have a chain of Hollywood retail stores.
But the content's changed. I mean, in the old days, it was really, it was very gratuitous. There was sexual violence, there were rape depictions, and all that other stuff. But that seems to have gone away. Have you
Now, see, you get hung up on all that stuff. I went to the United States Supreme Court.
Yes.
And spent millions of dollars to win a very important victory. It was a unanimous decision making parody protected speech.
Absolutely, but
okay?
I'm not saying that.
And we do a lot of political and social satire, and a lot of people want to come back at us and say, well, that's really, you know, violence towards women, or it's really this or that or what have you. But it's people that they just don't get the satire.
But it seems there's a shift, because that stuff doesn't seem to happen. You still do satire, but that kind of aggressive violence, that stuff that you used to do, doesn't seem to happen as much in your product. And I wondered, for you, did you have a change?
Well, no, not really, but it just doesn't have the shock value that it used to be. See, Hustler's not just irreverent, but it's iconoclastic, and it's that way by design, you know. So it's not Playboy, or it's not any of the other magazines that we compete with, other than Gynecological Monthly.
Yeah, well, at times I suppose it has been, right? Have you ever? I mean, every human being goes through, almost a regret moment. Have you looked at stuff you've done in the past and said, man, I wish we didn't do that?
Oh, we occasionally pulled something like a cartoon or a parody because we thought it went too far.
So who sets the line of what's too far and what's not too far?
Well, we get the feedback from readers. We used to have a cartoon feature that we published called Kiss of the Molester. Show this dirty old man was always chasing these young girls. He never hurt one of them or tried to give them lollipops and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody got a dirty old uncle that does such stuff anyway, you know.
Doesn't mean it's right. It's incredibly creepy and horrible.
Yeah, but we stopped that feature. A good friend of mine who was the head of the National Institute of Health, he told me, he said, I think it's a problem. I think you should stop it. And we stopped it. And we stopped some other things from time to time.
You thought it was a problem because you know, when people...
No, we don't want anybody to tell us, you know, that we're promoting violence against children or women, either one, you know. And we're very sensitive about that.
How did you deal with it? Years ago, there was a rape on a pool table that was, and it was in your magazine, and then you guys had a postcard. You tied the two together, right? You guys there was a gang, not a rape, you had a gangbang scene on a pool table, and then it later actually happened.
But I don't want to go into it, but there was much more to the details about the woman being raped on a pool table. We could take that's a whole hour to talk about that particular feature.
Yeah.
And it wasn't this horrific thing about a woman getting raped on a pool table. It was something that was very willing and consensual.
You're talking on your scene, yes. But I'm saying later when that actually happened in real life, then you guys put out a postcard, right?
Yeah, put a postcard up and said, "Welcome to Bedford, Mass, gang rape capital of the world." That wasn't in the best taste, you know. And we only did it once, but I'm saying there's two sides to every story.
Stick around. When we come back, Larry actually once ran for president. We'll play it's one of the best campaign ads you'll ever see. We'll see what he thinks of the White House over the past decade as well. More with Larry Flynt when we come back. Your